Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the third in our series, our New Jersey Community College Practitioner Scholars Series. We're delighted that you're able to join us this afternoon. Welcome, welcome, welcome across the board to friendly faces throughout the state of New Jersey. I'm Jake Farbman with the New Jersey Council of County Colleges. We're going to lead off today with Dr. Evelyn Ortega from Passaic County Community College. We're excited to hear her presentation. And so, Evelyn, we're going to turn it over to you now. Thanks again, everybody, for being with us.
Thank you, Jake. So I'm going to share my screen now. Can everyone see?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you today. As Jake mentioned, my name is Dr. Evelyn Ortega. My pronouns are she, her, ella, and I am the Associate Dean of Student Affairs here at Passaic County Community College. And my research had focused on an interpretive, phenomenological analysis, never can still say it, IPA for short, on Black male student experiences with retention and persistence at a minority serving institution. And so what I'm going to be going over today is a brief version of my research study, what entailed for the research design, my findings and the discussion that goes along with that, and then some of the reflections in regards to the research. So I did want to provide you a little bit of a background of myself as a researcher at the time when I did conduct the study. And so I finished this in 2021. So at that time, I was focusing on my educational background included having a Bachelor of Arts in International Relations, a Master's of Education in Higher Education Administration, where I identify as a first-generation student and self-identify as a Latina. And then some of my previous professional experiences prior to when I was conducting the study it included the roles of program coordinator, assistant director, and acting director of student life at a large public minority serving institution. So now let's get to the good stuff, a little bit more about the actual research and reasoning behind it. So despite enrollment at a large inner city institution with support programs that were focused on assisting Black males, retention for undergraduates had declined across the research site and across the nation. And previous researchers had employed a deficit or problem-focused approach when it came to exploring this problem. And they were suggesting multiple reasons for the low completion rates among Black students. However, few of the researchers were having published studies that were exploring the experiences of Black male students who had successfully persisted specifically at a minority serving institution. So in an attempt to address that problem of retention and persistence, the literature indicated that there was a commitment from institutions to be able to provide a supportive environment with different resources that could contribute to academic success for Black male students. So the primary research question, which you will see on the screen on here, that was guiding my study at the time, was how do Black male college students who have persisted to their senior year make sense of their undergraduate experiences at a minority serving institution? And so in order to help address those gaps in the research, the purpose was to explore from the perception of the Black male students themselves on what experiences positively contributed to their retention and persistence at an MSI. And then the findings were meant to assist in connecting two specific areas regarding the efficacy of support and the systems and of support systems and student perspectives of success. Now, back then, there wasn't as much talk about this theory, but the theory that did guide my research back then was the critical race theory, so CRT, with the 5 tenets consisting of intercentricity of race and racism, with other forms of subordination, challenge to the dominant ideology, commitment to social justice, centrality of experimental knowledge, and transdisciplinary perspective. So for me, I wanted to be able to ground the research in the literature and relating it to persistence and retention of Black male college students. in the United States specifically. And so the three themes that you see on the screen here were the main ones that came about, beginning with factors affecting the retention of underrepresented students, which provided insight into the successes and challenges that were being experienced by Black male students in their academic environments. The literature has showed evidence that Black male undergraduate students were demonstrating retention and persistence when they attended institutions where the leaders were actually acknowledging their racial identities and taking steps to address any racial disparities that they may come across. The researchers had cited a number of factors that could positively impact retention, and some of those things included college preparatory programs, academic advisement and admissions, first-year seminars, and the engagement with faculty and staff. So the literature also demonstrated non-cognitive influences that were affecting the academic performance of these students, such as gender, familial capital, and self-efficacy and worth. And then lastly, when it came to campus involvement, such as peer mentoring, clubs and organizations, Greek life, those were aspects that were able to provide a community for the students, which assisted them in their persistence and retention. Despite that broad view in the literature of what might improve the persistence for Black male college students, the research had been limited by having a tendency to focus either on Black female students alone or minority students as a whole. And then additionally, the literature was more focused on reviewing other aspects that didn't delve into the lived experiences of Black male students themselves. So from their specific perspective. So I'm going to give you a little brief overview of the research design. So as I said, I did an IPA. It was qualitative research. With that, it was chosen because of the ability to explain the lived experiences through the perspective of the actual participants themselves. I had 8 participants who were Black male college students. They were in their senior year of full-time undergraduate study or were recent graduates excuse me, who had obtained their undergraduate degree within the last 6 months of the start of the study. When it came to recruitment, it took place through targeted emails, flyers being posted around the research site. There was a purposive sampling that got applied, snowball sampling as well. I'm sure many of you have heard these terms. And then data collection. Besides utilizing IPA as a research method, I did semi-structured interviews, and those were all done in person. So this was pre-COVID. And then later on, they were transcribed. So now I'm going to tell you a little bit about the findings, but specifically, I'm going to start out with a snapshot overview of the participants because I feel it's important to be able to take a look at it from this perspective. And so something interesting that I did not know at the time of the study, but came about later after I concluded collecting all of my data and analyzing, is that 6 of the students were actually transfer students. So they had come from community colleges. That was not a requirement to be able to be a participant within my study, but I did find it interesting. And so when this opportunity came about to be able to present the research, I thought it would be something that actually would be of value to our specific community, as we're all at community colleges. And so 6 of them actually identified as being transfer students coming from community colleges themselves as well. And then additionally, just a quick show, they were all involved in different aspects on campus. And that also was not a prerequisite. They just happened to all be involved in some capacity at the research site. So 3 of the major themes that emerged as a result of my IPA analysis are seen on the screen. And so the first superordinate theme being overcoming retention challenges. And so that included specifically resolving fear of preparation for college, navigating an overwhelming new environment, and a sense of visible support through the lens of engagement.
During the fire drill, there's a student.
And so the second superordinate theme was academic persistence, and that focused on the intrinsic motivation to succeed, engagement resulting from academic connections, surpassing disengagement challenges, and encouragement through familial capital. And last but not least, we have the benefits of student engagement, which for many of us, we already know what some of those benefits are, but it did show up in the actual research, focusing on the sense of belonging through non-academic connections and also building opportunities for additional engagement. So what I always like to do when I'm presenting is to be able to give a visualization in some capacity. And so for me, I wanted to be able to bring the voices of my participants as I presented here to you today. And so I'm doing so through quotes that were emerging from the data analysis in their own words, because lived experiences do matter. So for our first theme of overcoming retention challenges, Anthony had discussed how football kept him focused on his educational pursuits and away from any temptations. For Sean, it was the visibility of the diversity of the campus he had chosen. And for Kevin, he specifically discussed resources when he stated, I know there's always somebody that can help you with your advisors. You got student life, you got the counseling service, you got so many things. Don't give up, don't stop, because don't let something stop or impede you from going forward. And so these next set of quotes focused on academic persistence and the experiences that the students had. So for Jesse, he refused to be a statistic. For Jamie, he mentioned that attaining motivation through having a study group. Justin focused on being able to surpass the academic disengagement. And Jake, no correlation to Jake, who's actually joining us today, actually had mentioned being able to attain motivation through having a study group. And lastly, Justin focused on surpassing that. And then when we come back to Jake, I do want to read his quote specifically. He stated, I just know that they are always on my side and that they want me to succeed. And they'll support me in whatever path I choose to go in. Just always asking me how my day is, asking me how far along I am with my schoolwork. Let's see, asking me what plans are for the future, telling me that they'll always be there for me, those things. And then lastly, for the theme of benefits of student engagement, which I think can resonate with a lot of us, these were focused on the different benefits of student engagement. And so for Jesse, he shared that being able to relate to like-minded individuals culturally was important to him. Alan described locating student resources specifically for Black men. And for Anthony, it was the unexpected possibility of a study abroad experience, which he described when he stated, I never even knew that I could study abroad. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just here to get my degree and move on. The staff member told me, the treasure is right there, but you ran past it. By the time you come back, it may not be there. She was definitely one of those great people, definitely big influences. So I hope that some of these quotes resonate with some of you. And although these students were already at the four-year institution, as I said, 6 out of the 8 of them had come from community colleges. And so it goes with the fact that part of this is what they brought with them from community colleges and assistance that they received previously that then they took with them to their four-year institutions. Now, I'd like to be able to share a little bit more in terms of what those findings talked about as it relates to the literature. And so on each of these slides, you'll see at the bottom showing whether or not the points on the screen are consistent with the work of certain researchers or if it is expanding the work on there just for reference. Excuse me, it's been a minute since I've talked straight. I haven't done it in a few years. So as you can see on the screen, for the participants reflecting on their experiences about overcoming retention challenges, they had a sense of fear that was emanating from the lack of college life exposure. So this expanded on the work of Harper, Hines et al., and Means et al., who were proposing that African-American students benefited from college preparatory programs specifically that were acquainting those students with the resources that were available at their new institutions. after they became more familiar with those resources, then the participants in both studies all expressed becoming more aware of the expectations they would meet in their new college journey. Harper, Hines et al., and Means et al. Only specifically discussed, though, the role of the knowledge acquisition. Thus, that's why this was expanding with contributing another aspect regarding specifically the role of fear and the importance of that when it came to overcoming retention challenges. There was also a sense of lingering fear and pathway creation when it came to with the ability to be able to surpass the initial lack of access to resources. And that can be contributed to different things, such as them being a first-generation student. But that expanded on some of the similar works of Jackson, Naylor, Tinto, Knight's Manual et al., Jackson, and Knight Manual, excuse me. They were postulating that minority students needed to be informed of ways to engage with the opportunities presented to them as college students, regardless of the type of institution they chose to attend. So whether they were attending an HBCU, a PWI, an MSI, any of the case, that they needed to be informed of how they'd be able to engage and what opportunities were available for them. And so then there was also a sense of overwhelm, which corroborated some of the similar patterns that were seen by some of the researchers mentioned on the slide. And so a majority of the participants actually talked about the intersectionality that came about in terms of their identity as Black men and how gender and culture intertwined to be able to create this expectation that they represent their entire population. And so therefore they had to persist beyond their own feelings of being overwhelmed to be able to change the narrative that got associated with their identities as Black men. Additionally, the participants felt visibly seen and valued by faculty. These feelings of visibility were interpreted to mean even more, to the participants who were interacting specifically with faculty members that were sharing the same or similar cultural identities. And so that provided a bit of a sense of validation because they were able to see themselves in their faculty that were engaging with them. They also had engagement in a holistic experience on a cognitive and social level because they were able to gain equitable and valuable experiences through that additional engagement that they were able to ensure that they remained informed of all opportunities. So as the participants reflected on academic persistence, they mentioned feeling a sense of support for overcoming adversity and obstacles. And so this was in contrast to some of the work of the researchers mentioned here, because the Black men in my study indicated that although their motivation came from within, it was fostered by external supports that they received. So it wasn't just what was being received within the institution, but their external environment as well. And they also developed an awareness leading to attaining engagement quickly. And so, for them, for the participants in the study, they were able to establish specific connections academically that helped them engage to be able to understand the academic material and be able to manage that course load that was being given to them. And they were able to then establish those academic connections. And that went along with and expanded a little bit on the work of some of the researchers mentioned here in terms of the crucial role of the professor. And needing for a robust academic relationship between the students and the professors, because that was part of the reasons as to why they were able to persist and move forward. Excuse me. So the participants were also able to push forward past any disengagement challenges. And they had indicated that staff, such as counselors, from a support program or departmental staff actually played a pivotal role when it came to helping them resolve any academic issues that they were facing. And then, familial capital was also something that provided them an enthusiastic motivation to succeed. And so that went along with the work of the researchers that are mentioned here, who talked about the pivotal role of familial capital. And although they were specifically stating it at HBCUs, it was also mentioned at PWIs. So this was going along with that, just to echo it for MSIs as well. As the participants reflected on their experiences for benefits of student engagement, they were able to create communities of support with like-minded students and attain cultural knowledge because they were able to be around like-minded students and gather that support. And so this went along with the works of Simmons, Strayhorn, and others that are mentioned on here that discussed obtaining cultural knowledge through campus relationships specifically to be able to help African-American males attain their degree. They also had a sense of satisfaction and connection to the institution. Excuse me. So as I was saying, they were able to get a sense of satisfaction and connection to the institution. And that was of particular importance because at the time of the study, only 6.4% of Black undergraduate students had participated in a study abroad program. So the aspect that I mentioned earlier about the athlete that didn't even know about studying abroad was of particular importance that I found in my research. And by coincidence, it came about in terms of the participants' lived experiences. Because at that time, there was only 6.4% of Black undergraduate students that were participating in a national study abroad program, which made them the fourth highest population by race or ethnicity to be able to embrace that opportunity. So quick summary of the key findings. Just wanted to reiterate that the participants have found a connection to cultural identity in their academic communities through representation and support from faculty and staff, and that was extending beyond the classroom. They had this sense of community with their peers, and that was through their student clubs and organizations. And they were also able to attain knowledge of expectations and resources that were available to them as a college student. Having that continuous support from family members was pivotal for them. And then also new experiences, like I mentioned, of studying abroad, enhanced their opportunities for new forms of engagement. In terms of theoretical implications, we're not going to go into this in depth, but there were two specific tenets that had main implications in terms of my research, and that was the intricity of race and racism for the lack of exposure to college life and expectations that could align with an individual's race. And then also that according to dominant ideology, Black male students lacked college preparation entirely, but this was attributed more so to a lack of access to information about academic life and the relationships that the individuals were building within the academic community. So in terms of recommendations that I had made at the time for professional practice, excuse me, would be to recommend for campuses to implement, if not already, an updated recruitment and summer bridge program to support all new incoming students, to increase academic engagement between students and faculty by providing visible support in a coordinated matching program as opposed to something that's informal. And then lastly, being able to reach a number of students through the benefit of student engagement by having things such as a series of engagement programming that goes beyond the orientation to be able to foster that consistency and continuous support of opportunities where they can then make sure that it's being aligned with student affairs practitioners consultation for all different initiatives that may be taking place already at the institution. And then for future research, there can be research that can be focused on the impact of student engagement opportunities, such as study abroad, on Black males in comparison to those who partake versus those who do not. And then also being able to focus in on a more in-depth examination of the foundation that's behind what the participant talks about in terms of intrinsic motivation to succeed, rooting back to their childhood experiences and involvement of resources for Black males. And then lastly, being able to research the cultivation of academic connections outside of the classroom more in depth. So that's it. Thank you for your patience as I got through it without trying to cough too much. And I'll take any questions.
Any questions? Anyone? Dr. Ortega, thank you. Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from the crowd? We have time for 1 or 2 questions. Okay, some nice comments in the chat coming in. Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing your research.
Thank you. And if anyone feels like they're on the spot and you'd like to ask a question later on, you can always reach out individually, as I know that it may seem a little bit too much pressure to be trying to put in something in the chat. So please feel free to reach out if you ever want to connect separately.
Dr. Ortega, thank you so much for sharing your research with us and enlightening us this afternoon and being with us today. And thank you to the crowd. We're going to transition now, and we'll turn the webinar over to Dr. A.J. Trump of Bergen Community College in the same space of fostering student success and completion, only through a different lens from the work that A.J. did. So Dr. Trump, it's all yours. Evelyn, thank you once again.
Thank you, Dr. Farbman and Dr. Ortega. Excellent job with your presentation. I'm Dr. A.J. Trump from Bergen Community College. Let me just share my screen here. Looks good. Y'all can see my PowerPoint. Awesome. Thank you, Jake. My research and my dissertation actually relates to athletics, the value of non-scholarship community college in athletics. A student athlete and administrator perspective. Like Jake said, I'm Dr. A.J. Trump. I'm the Vice President of Student Affairs at Bergen Community College. And looking at the list of people on, I see a lot of people from Bergen. I see a lot of colleagues from other schools. I see a lot of friends. So thank you for this time. And there's some names that I don't know. So it's great to be able to share this with you. I completed my doctoral studies in 2017 and graduated in 2018 from Rowan University. I've had a very interesting path. I started out as a high school science teacher, physics teacher, for about 4 years, but I was coaching part-time at the community college and absolutely fell in love with what I did. I got a bachelor's in physics from the College of New Jersey. As I was teaching in the high school, I started to pursue a master's in sports management through the United States Sports Academy, and quickly realized I wanted to make a run at being in the athletic world at the community college. And so you can see from my timeline here, from about 2007 to 2016, I was an administrator in the athletic department at Ocean County College. And honest to goodness, some of the best years of my life, had some of the best interactions with students that I've ever had. I started to study for and went for my doctorate at Rowan University in around 2014 through the Community College Leadership Initiative, which if anybody is considering, highly recommend. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me offline. I'm happy to talk about my experience there. I know a number of other people on the call have done it, their doctorates there. And, while I was going through, got asked to kind of move around. Move from athletics and take some of my skills and knowledge and leadership into enrollment management, into admissions, and then into student services. And now I'm just super lucky to work at Bergen Community College. I absolutely adore this institution, and thanks for everybody from Bergen that tuned in. As the Vice President of Student Affairs, this is an amazing job. For my director was also a great job. So when I was studying at Rowan and thinking about what I wanted my topic to be, of course I wanted to relate it to athletics, because I felt like I had such a connection, and I really grew there and understood everything at the institution could offer, from advising to everything. So when thinking about a topic to study or to write my dissertation on, I said, I looked at the research out there and I said, you know, there's some research out there, but not so much on community college athletics, not so much at Division III community college athletics. You know, when you think of athletics, people think of, you know, big Division I March Madness, the NCAA. You know, I really wanted to drill into some of the athletes that I was working with and I was coaching and be able to present out to the world, you know, the value that athletics brings to them, because we're not generating revenue. How does this work? You know, how does this contribute to the overall college? So the purpose of my study was to examine why these student athletes choose to attend the community college non-scholarship in New Jersey, participate in athletics, the factors that influence those decisions, and how administrators and student athlete descriptions of the value and contribution of their participation in community college athletics align. So I did a multiple case study, which basically means I did research at 2 community colleges, Community College A and Community College B. I removed names just for, because I promised that I'd keep things confidential. So, and I interviewed student athletes and administrators from 2 different community colleges. And I also surveyed student athletes from both community colleges. I selected the community colleges based on, you know, they had to be non-scholarship, which is Division III in all of their sports. I, you know, wanted to make sure they were suburban serving institutions and that they had robust intercollegiate athletic offerings of 10 or more sports. And so you can kind of see some of the stats on the right there in that chart for the community colleges that were selected. Like I said, I interviewed student athletes. I interviewed athletic administrators, or if they had more than one, I interviewed 2. I interviewed the chief student administrator, which like the vice president of student affairs. And then I also surveyed student athletes. And I came up with an interview protocol that I adapted from somebody that had done similar research, not on community college students, Gil, and kind of, you know, I adapted an interview from that for the student athletes and administrators. And then I also adapted a student athlete selection factor survey from Rinke to see, you know, why students are choosing to participate, what factors are influencing their decisions. So when I went to these schools, and the names have been changed, these are all people's names in my family from here. So this is kind of the fun things you get to do. I tried to get various, you know, interview subjects. So different sports, different genders, different GPAs. I didn't want just all high achiever honor students. I wanted the students that kind of struggled a little bit through it too. Administrators were basically selected just based on their roles. The athletic administrator had an assistant and their supervisor, which is typically the chief student affairs officer. This is a little bit about the survey instrument that I delivered to the student athletes. It was a 46 question survey, and student athletes were asked to rank selection factors, these 46 factors, and either say that, yep, it was super important to them when they were looking at the school, somewhat important, moderately important, or very important, or they didn't experience that. Those 46 factors directly linked back to those 10 selection factors on the left, and then we could kind of come up with, all right, what were the most important 10 selection factors, and compare with what Rinke did. So my first research question was, how do Division III New Jersey Community College athletic administrators and student athlete descriptions of the value and contribution of being a community college athlete align? And what I found, and you'll see a lot of the same, names as in the previous presentation by Dr. Ortega, Tinto, student retention theory, Aston student involvement theory. What we found was that student athletes and administrators in my study, and I encourage you, the study is 200 and something pages, and I'm trying to just break out little pieces for you here. So if you're really interested more, there's some good narrative in there. You can download it, it's free. You just got to Google the title of my presentation. But what the findings were for research question 1 was that student athletes and administrators said that athletics had a direct impact on the students' growth on their learning and development. Like as described by Aston, student involvement theory. Student athletes that were involved said being involved helped them grow, helped them learn, helped them develop soft skills, helped them develop time management skills, helped them develop leadership skills, how to work within a team, help them with their academic eligibility, help them persist at the institution, help them integrate at the institution. Some of the quotes that I have from some of the administrators interviewed said that the student athletes' retentions were in the 90th percentile, when more than 30 points higher than those that aren't student athletes in their general population. So there was definitely this direct impact on the students' ability to learn, grow, and develop that came through in my study. There was also definite impact on the students' satisfaction, their acquisition of knowledge, their skills, their competencies, their attainment, and out of college performance. It made a difference for them at work, that made a difference for them in other places. Even more so, student athletes, like I said, better grades, more soft skill development, and the athletes and administrators both agreed that, with all the things I just said, the athletes and the administrators were reporting in the interviews, these types of experience, that their involvement in athletics was critical for their development and their success, which was actually, quite interesting. What I thought it would be, having a little bias, I won't lie, being an athletic administrator for so long. But, when I asked the questions, I was very careful not to let that bias come through. Some lived experiences, I always like to give quotes. This is what some of the athletes and the administrators said. The administrators are in the dark blue and the athletes are in the lighter blue. So I think it's a good thing always being involved more. The more you're involved on campus, the more you feel connected to the school. So there's an administrator describing student involvement theory, right? The more you're involved, the better you do. An athlete has motivation. If they don't get the grades, they can't continue playing. So an administrator saying basically, of course, athletes are going to do well. They want to play and they come to school to play sports. Athletics provides motivation for them. And we all know that student that's like, why are you in school? I'm in school to play sports. Not really the best answer when you're an athletic administrator, not what you want to hear. But if it gets a student through and gets them an education, it's a good, hey, it's a motivating factor. And you kind of want to flip that script on them a little bit as an administrator. But another administrator said the lessons on what they can take into a job and how to get along with others. They learn how to succeed and fail, take lessons out of that, whether it's personal or work related. Some of the lived experience of the athletes, this athlete on the bottom left had a wonderful experience with the staff, making those relationships. We talk about belongingness nowadays, right? I won't ever stop talking with my assistant athletic director. She's awesome. Anything we need, she's always there. And my athletic director is awesome. We all love him. He was at all of our games. The equipment staff was always there. They love to talk to us. So being engaged with people, feeling like you belong, having a group of people that care about you makes a huge impact. Another student athlete felt that being a student athlete promoted teamwork, helped them work in teams better. They know, another student said, I know I have to have a good GPA. I've never even gone below a 3.0. That helps a lot of us stay on track. The coaches and administrators are stressing it entirely. So these students are getting really intensive, almost EOF type support and integration into an institution. All right, research question 2 had to do with why these student athletes choose to attend the community college. So what I found was that they did choose to attend based on similar factors and rankings that Rinke had in her study of the four-year school student athletes. However, these non-scholarship athletes tend to gravitate more towards factors like the success and reputation of the team, how far the college is from home, their role on the team and athletic goals, and the tuition and aid offered. So affordability was a big factor. Their role on the team and their athletic goals was a big factor, and the school's reputation, social atmosphere, and programs. And also when I interviewed the student athletes, I asked these questions qualitatively and found that the qualitative answers I got aligned with this. And so here's the survey results. I didn't want to show you all the crazy math and all the stuff I had to do for reliability, but I did want to show you kind of how the ranks came out. And you can see, as a whole, the top ranked items are highlighted here in yellow: academic programs and social atmosphere, their individual role in the teams and athletic goals, and their aid and tuition, all ranked in the top 4 for student athletes at both Community College A and Community College B. There was an interesting thing that I'd found at Community College B, that the student athletes' highest thing was facilities and academic support for athletes. More to come on that in a few minutes. I had an emergent case find, so just keep that in the back of your head. And that was a big difference from Community College A. So there are some things you can do within athletic departments and with athletic programs. And I think there was a little bit of a bias for those athletes because they had experienced that support and thought, man, that was really important. But I don't know if that was, I'm not sure if that was a selection factor or if they were like, that was such a great thing that this school is doing for me that it really is something that's important. So more to come on that. And then my final research question: why do students choose to participate in athletics in New Jersey, Division III community colleges? And it's, what we found is that student athletes have been historically involved. They see the benefits as described by Aston and Tinto. And because the selection factors resonates with them, they've been historically involved, they develop relationships, they know that being integrated helps them towards their goals. Some of them said being a freshman and getting to know people by starting out with a sport in August really made me more comfortable. There were some really great quotes. They also saw it as an opportunity to figure out what they wanted to do at an affordable price. A lot of them talked about it being a second chance to prove themselves. Maybe they didn't get a scholarship. Maybe they weren't recruited out of high school to go on to a 4-year school. And they said, you know what? I'm going to take a step to the community college, take some more time. And they saw it as an opportunity to get seen at the next level. So some lived experiences here, some quotes. For research question 3, I went away, I saw this as a better option, and it became more of a first choice. I've met so many friends from Soccer, it keeps me in shape. I probably wouldn't have attended without athletics. I think athletics keep me on track with school because you need to keep a GPA. A lot of times the student athletes said, if they didn't offer athletics, I would look somewhere else. I wouldn't have come here. So a lot of students are choosing the community college just because it's offering athletics. I don't think I would have come here without athletics. I think the most important was probably seeing the value here. How could I be with a group of guys that's fun to be around and play with? Lacrosse for me, I've been playing since I've been in the 3rd grade. I picked up a stick when I was in first grade. It's a sport I love to play. It was another opportunity to play a sport I love. It ended up being my first choice. I was recruited by D3 and D2 schools, but that just didn't work out. Financials, whatever. So Community College A ended up being my first choice. So these are some of the quotes that supported some of those findings. And I have a whole bunch more in the dissertation. But so some emergent findings, some things that kind of came out that I wasn't looking for, but that came out. One student athlete at Community College A said something like, basketball saved my life. And they went on to describe how, a lot of their friends after high school didn't make the best choices, didn't go on to do things, didn't have a lot of motivation, and ended up in not good places, living out of their cars, in jail. This student, Karen, not the real name, Karen, talked about how actually not attending her community college in her county, but going to a community college in another county, provided an opportunity for her to develop, grow, and make a better life, and saved her from going down that same path. I found that really, really quite interesting. Another student athlete said, my mother was sick and I didn't want to leave. I needed to stay close to home. So there were some findings that kind of grouped together, themed up in Community College A, that athletics was providing opportunities to educate and help students through difficult life circumstances. while providing them with the opportunity to get an education. You know, if I would say maybe it's not just athletics, but maybe it's community colleges as a whole, right? For some student athletes, it's a community college or nowhere. And, you know, I see that so much everywhere else in my life as a community college administrator. Another emergent single case finding was from Community College B. So remember that one selection factor that was ranked the highest at Community College B? Every student athlete that I interviewed at Community College B described the importance of this relationship that they had with an athletic advisor. They had a specific athletic advisor dedicated to them that would, you know, for a certain number of hours a day, sit in a room, help them with tutoring, help them with picking classes, help them be successful. And they all talked about how impactful, positive, and helpful that was for them through their academic and athletic experience. They talked about that person giving them assistance with everything, soup to nuts, providing sound academic advice and retention coaching. This was another emergent case finding in Community College B. And I think there was a little bit of bias by the students when they were filling out the survey, because I don't know if that was, I'm pretty sure that wasn't introduced to them during the recruiting process, but I think after they had experienced the relationship and all that that advisor did for them, they said, you know what, that's really important for me. I didn't even know that was an option, and they ranked it higher on the survey. So another emergent single case finding for Community College B. All right, my last slide before I open it up for some discussion and questions. So what are some takeaways here? You know, athletics at the community college level, Division III, definitely serves as a vehicle for students to practice soft skills and grow as individuals. When it's properly administered, and why I put that in there was there was a lot of evidence from the descriptions of the importance of the involvement of the administrators in making sure that the student athletes were supported appropriately and, you know, on the right path. Another takeaway: athletics and student involvement is shown to benefit student retention, persistence, and academic success. So I put that in there because I feel like during my time in athletics, I learned a lot of things and a lot of skills that I think would benefit the general student population, that if you were able to take it out of athletics, right, in this study, and make it scalable for students. So if every student had an advisor like those students in the athletic department did, you know, could they be quite as successful? Could they be as successful? Could they have that belongingness? You know, so there's these little things that you can find that you can pull out of student involvement in extracurricular activities that you can pull out and apply across an institution. Athletics can definitely serve as an attractive enrollment tool. Almost all of the athletes said they wouldn't have attended without athletics. How many athletes attend an institution just because the school has the opportunity for them maybe to try to participate? How many students are impacted by having athletics? Not just the athletes, not just the 140 or whatever athletes, but the people that do the announcing for the games and run the live stream and get to practice the skills that they're learning in the classroom. People that do statistics, that travel with the team. There's sports media, the people that write stories for the websites. Sometimes you have, you know, people at the games playing music, you know, and performing arts. I mean, there are so many ways that athletics can get integrated to impact an institution. It can make an institution attractive for students, not just for student athletes, but for students to attend. And finally, community college athletics definitely prepares students and helps them get recognized for transfer to four-year schools. We see this all the time. I saw this all the time as an athletic administrator. How many of the athletes, you know, went on? I think there were 6 or 7 people in the Super Bowl this year that started out at a community college, one from Lackawanna, right across the border in Pennsylvania. So a lot of students get their start and get recognized, you know, and make a career out of athletics. And then, you know, go on or get recognized and get a scholarship to finish their bachelor's degree. So that is the conclusion of some of the findings from my study. I absolutely encourage you to please, if you want to read the full study, you can just Google the title from the beginning of the slides, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. And if you ever have any questions, my email is atrump@bergen.edu. I'm happy to open up for questions right now, Jake.
Wow, AJ, thank you. Any questions for AJ regarding his dissertation presentation today? Questions or comments from anyone?
Yes, my name is Pam Cole.
Hi, Pam.
I'm Bergen Community College as well. So, as a parent of two student athletes who went on to four-year institutions, I look forward to opening up this conversation with Dr. Trump in the future because I have my own particular findings, and one of the things that I would like to ask Dr. Trump is, are you able to follow up the types of positions that the students take on in a career?
I'm sorry, I lost the last part. Was I able to follow up with the students?
Positions inside of a career option.
Oh, their career options. I did not in my study go into what their career options or what they were looking at studying. But I think that's a really interesting topic, and to kind of see where they start and where they go for somebody else to look at, because the development of student athletes and their likes and their interests during their time, can change, especially if they're having good conversations with their faculty members, with their advisors. So I'd be interested. I'm sure there might be something out there, but I don't know. I don't know if that's been done in the community college. So anybody that's thinking about a doctorate, I think that's a great topic. That's not something I was able to get into, but we could definitely talk when you have some time,
Yeah.
Pam. I'd love to talk.
I look forward to that. Thank you.
Yep.
Pam, thank you. Any other questions? So before we wrap up, shameless plug, our next Practitioner Scholars webinar is going to be Thursday, April 11th, featuring Dr. Jessica Fargnoli from Bergen Community College and Dr. Ian Wolf from Passaic County Community College. And I hope I'm not embarrassing him, but there are a number of us here who went through one of the Rowan programs, and the man who started the Rowan program joined us today to see some of us. So Dr. Nespoli, thank you for all you've done starting that program and for all of us, and thanks for being with us today to hear some of the results of your labor in starting that program. All right, well, thank you everybody for being with us today, and we'll see you on the next webinar. And enjoy the rest of the day and have a great rest of the week, everybody. Thanks again. Bye-bye.